surfaces. I'll just say hello to everyone, and hopefully I will have full signal throughout this meeting, but one never knows. So Patrick will be at the ready, hopefully. So right now it is 1400. So welcome to you all to the November ONS meeting. And do we have any apologies for absence, Darryl, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. We have apologies from one committee member being Councillor Andy Coulson, and we have also apologies, Chair, from two Hub committee members being Councillors Mott and Sellis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. If we can have confirmation of the minutes, please, from the meeting of the 6th of October, she says. Yeah, it was. That was a good memory. So does anybody have anything they'd like to say about those, or are they all okay?
Just a couple of queries on whether something's been done on a couple of points, but I've got no problems with the contents.
Okay. Well, we don't have a matters arising, Councillor Moy, so do you want to bring them up now?
Yeah, thank you. Just two things. One, I see that my machine now has Teams on it, and we were going to have some training opportunities, and have they been organised? And the other thing was we were going to just have some discussion with Dartmoor National Park, and I just wondered whether that had occurred or not.
Right, okay. Mr. White, if you would like to answer about Teams, please.
I can take the Teams one. Thank you, Chair. Just to say, we're currently bottoming out the exact launch date for when we're going to, certain offices have been switched over as we speak. I think, for example, SLT and ELT colleagues, there's a gradual transition of officers. When members will follow on the back of that, but before we go live with any formal member meetings, there will certainly be training with Mr. Gardner, and that'll be in a various different guises, be it sort of one-to-one sessions or small groups, but there will certainly be training before we go live with any formal member meetings over Teams, Chair.
Okay, Darryl, do we have a date yet for when we're going to launch Teams?
We do. I can answer that if you want.
Thanks, Mr. Molyneux.
Chair. So it's the 26th, the evening of the 26th of November would be the, which is a Thursday evening. That would be the transfer day for West Devon members. And then Steve Garner will be arranging training sessions on the Friday, the 27th, and the following Monday, the 30th.
Could I just interrupt? I can't remember the date, and I haven't got my diary in front of me, but Debo Sellis had organised a meeting, and I think that was going to be on Teams with Alison Fernandez.
And that's on the 25th of November.
Yeah.
I mean, members can still join Teams calls, but they have to effectively go on the web version of Teams. So if you get an invite to a Teams call, you can click on it and it will take you to a page that says, how do you wish to join this Teams call? And you have to go via the web app. But from the 26th, when you're transferred over, then you will have the Teams app on your Skype.
Okay.
Skype, sorry.
It's ever so easy to use, Councillor Moyes.
Thank you. Perhaps I ought to speak to you after the meeting about it. Thank
you. Councillor Cheadle. Oh, your second question, Councillor Moyes, about DMPA. Who's going to answer that one?
Looking, Chair, whereabouts in the minutes is that?
Hang on, I've got it on my... ONS 28.
About infrastructure.
The lead officer recognised there was a need to improve the dialogue between the Borough Council and the Dartmoor National Park Authority on the cycle proposals, and a meeting was to be set up in the upcoming weeks.
I'm not aware at this point, Chair, that meeting's been set up. Obviously, now we've got the new head of place has just started, Sarah. So that's the sort of task that we'll be giving Sarah to get involved in, unless I noticed the chief exec's joined. I don't know if the chief exec's got an update.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yes, sorry, members, just to come in on that point. We have been waiting to get meetings set up. I understand that the meeting's in the diary for Chris Brooke and myself, an initial meeting with DNP tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
You.
Welcome, Chief Exec, to the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cheadle, your comments disappeared now, has it?
It has, thank you.
Oh, can barely hear you.
It has, thank you.
Right, okay, thank you. Right, so that's the minutes done. So declarations of interest. Everybody knows the format, so if you have anything to declare or anything that comes up in the meeting, please let us know as soon as you become aware. Items requiring urgent attention. I don't think I have any, do I, Mr. White?
That's correct, Chair. There are none.
No, that's good. The public forum, we have nothing, do we, as far as I'm aware?
Again, that's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Right. The hub forward plan. Oh, golly. Right. Now I need to do technology. Could you take us through it, please, Mr. White?
1 second, Chair. I'm just calling.
Can you put it on the screen or something? That'd be really good.
I'll drag it across. Thank you, Chair. Right. Hopefully you can see that one. Oops. Can all members see the?
Yes.
Right, from the top. Thank you, members. So obviously next hub committee meeting is the 1st of December.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't go through each one of them. You can see the titles there as we go down. There is an additional item for 1st December, which has become apparent since we published the forward plan with the agenda, Chair, which relates to a community housing scheme report from Mr. Rob Ellis. So that will be an additional item for 1st December.
Okay, does that form part of the housing strategy or is that it on its own?
No, it's a standalone report, Chair.
Okay, right. Do any members have any questions on the hub forward plan, please? No? Right, okay. Moving on then to the Community Safety Partnership Annual Report. This will be presented by Louisa Daly, our Community Safety Officer, and Becca Hewitt, who's the Community Safety Manager. Is that still your title, Becca?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I was just going to say that I was.
And I was just coming to you, Councillor Musgrave.
Thank you.
And to you as our representative on the Community Safety Partnership. Are you going to introduce this then, Councillor Musgrave, please?
Thank you, Chair. I can be very brief. I'm keen not to really put any particular emphasis on any section in the report. It is very wide-ranging, and you will see that I think the report is predominantly standalone, self-explanatory. I would perhaps just comment on the fact that we do cover this wide variety of activities on the CSP, and we do tend to work at a whirlwind, particularly at our partnership meetings. They are always worth a visit to attend them. They're very, very comprehensive and do cover all the issues that are presented in this report.
After the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, hang up or press the hash key for more options.
Have we lost Becca?
Am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here, Councillor Musgrave. I think it was Becca that might have disappeared.
Yes,
Okay.
Chair, I think Becca's dropped out.
Oh, that's inconvenient, but never mind. I'm sure
I'm
Louisa
sure she'll be
will
back.
cover for her. Yeah. So without further ado, I'm very happy to present the report. I'm sure that Louisa will cover any questions that members may have for her. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Musgrave. Louisa, was she going to do her usual go through?
Yes, Chair. We were going to co-present.
If you do your bit first, then, and hopefully we'll have Becca back for the
yeah, that's
bit that
fine.
you're going to. Are you okay with that?
Yep, more than happy.
Okay.
Okay,
You,
so no worries. I was going to talk about the specific West Devon achievements, starting as part of section, the additional achievements specific to West Devon under the table, if you can see that.
12. Yeah.
Thank you. It's not listed on my copy. Okay, so the CSP has worked with the Tavistock Youth Cafe, so that's a facility in Tavistock for young people, and we've provided financial support for them to work with 3 young people in Tavistock who were getting very closely involved with County Lines activity, and that was has been really successful in helping for them to understand exactly the dangers that they were putting themselves in, and those 3 young people, as of last week, the week before, when we spoke to the youth cafe, they are no longer engaging with them, but from a positive perspective. For the CSP in West Devon have got really good links with our local secondary schools in West Devon. So we engage closely with Tavistock, Oakhampton and Mount Kelly College, hold quarterly meetings with them, and we can work with the police and the youth intervention officer, the YIO, and share good practice and share any concerns in our communities between us. So that's really helpful from a partnership perspective. Becca was going to talk to you. Becca, are you on the line at all yet? No, I shall continue. Becca was going to speak to you about the Into the Counties presentation, which the CSP funded through all of the schools, and that was around exploitation and county lines. So I don't know if you remember, members, but in previous years we've had theatre companies go into our schools and do a presentation and then stay in role as actors and facilitate workshops afterwards, and we worked with all of our colleges in West Devon on a production called Into the Counties, which is a county lines type prevention. We have chaired as a CSP, we've chaired meetings as part of the ASF, which is the Adolescent Safety Framework, which is the contextual safeguarding around young people in Devon. It's a new framework brought in by Devon County Council in the north of our borough, and I have chaired meetings from a safeguarding and community safety capacity around the young people and community approaches there, which have been fairly successful in preventing any of the activities continuing. And the CSP's facilitated and chaired meetings in West Devon regarding exploitation in the learning disability community. So we've got a couple of premises in West Devon where people with learning disabilities live and are supported, and unfortunately sometimes those premises are targets for people who wish to target vulnerable people, and we've been doing a lot of work with neighbourhood police around educating and making premises more secure so as to prevent that, together with ASB antisocial behaviour escalation on individuals who are frequenting the premises unnecessarily. I can talk you through briefly the antisocial behaviour achievements, if you like, Chair, as well in West Devon.
I am back, by the way, Becca. Very sorry,
Becca. Back. Right, how do you want to play this now, you two?
Shall I briefly cover John Ward's position, Becca, and then go back for you to cover your areas? You happy with that?
Yep, okay. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. So with regards achievements for antisocial behaviour, our antisocial behaviour officer in Old Money is John Ward. He works across South Hams and West Devon. As you can see from his report, he's received 21 referrals into the ASB, antisocial behaviour escalation process. Both 21 referrals, 2 have been escalated to the second stage letter around young people within the Oakhampton area. Some of that feeds into the work on the ASF, the Adolescent Safety Framework that I alluded to earlier. John's worked with 2 community trigger activations within West Devon, both relating to neighbourhood disputes. It can take up a lot of police and local agencies' time. CSP, working with John and police and local landlords, have created a criminal behaviour order, CBO. It was issued to a male sleeping in toilets in the West Devon area. He'd been offered copious amounts of help and assistance, but chose to live and stay in the toilets in West Devon, and then moved when agencies worked closely with him. So we had to incorporate different areas into that. He is at Her Majesty's pleasure, I believe, currently. And lastly, with regards, sorry, my computer's now frozen. Extensive multi-agency working. Sorry, I'm still here. It's my computer. Regarding positive engagements with partner agencies at the ASB meetings that John holds. As you can see in his report, individuals causing antisocial behaviour discussed amongst a team of local agency staff, and also vulnerable adults are discussed there to ensure that all the agencies are aware of those, and we're doing everything we can to protect them, keep them safe. Becca, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Did we cover anything at the start of the meeting? Again, apologies, members and chair, for my IT completely freezing and dropping out. Would you like me to start from the beginning of the report as a quick summary?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Louisa, because we've, Becca, because Louisa's covered West Devon
Okay,
items.
Fantastic. So I'm sure most members are familiar with the Community Safety Partnership and have heard us speak before, but just in case there's any new members, I'll just give you the context that the recommendation from the report is for you as members to be able to identify any issues or concerns that you've got, that we can do that for you at the next Community Safety Partnership meeting. That the purpose of the report is in the statutory requirement for you to scrutinise the work of the Community Safety Partnership on an annual basis, as is set out in the legislation stated under item 1. Also, for the background, the Community Safety Partnership operates across Teignbridge, South Hams and West Devon. It is a statutory function, and we do also work collaboratively across the rest of Devon and the peninsula on issues such as child sexual exploitation, modern slavery, drug misuse, and other types of crime. We are very intelligence-led. We work with the Devon Strategic Assessment to identify the areas of work and the priorities that we should be focusing on. And also in statute, we have to work to the Police and Crime Plan, which is the plan that is set out by the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. We have a focus on vulnerability, and we do have a local delivery plan that we present to the partnership on a quarterly basis, which shows the outcomes of the partnership and performance in relation to projects. We have received a grant of £25,000 from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, which is our annual budget, and we hope to do that next year. We're waiting for confirmation, but that isn't confirmed yet. So Louise has given you some achievements very specific to West Devon. I'm just going to run through and highlight a few for the whole of the CSP area that we've been working on. And I've set it out slightly differently this year. We've done it under the different priorities to make it really explicit where our focus is. So the first area around sexual violence, domestic violence and abuse is around our quarterly forum that Louisa chairs with the local domestic abuse service, which is really successful. We regularly get 20 or 30 attendees. The CSP has also worked with other agencies to produce a later in life toolkit, and that's actually going to be of benefit to partner agencies across the whole of the county, but it's been produced by us. And this is a toolkit designed to for people who are working with older people to support them through any DV, because it's a concern that we have, and the data is showing that we are seeing domestic abuse, including controlling and coercive behaviour in the older population. We've also been working across the whole of the CSP in relation to COVID, but specifically we've been working on campaigns because we were concerned that the domestic violence figures were dropping during COVID, and we wanted to make sure that we were encouraged reporting. We also, sadly, as one of our statutory duties, is have to engage in any domestic homicide reviews, and I'm pleased to say that we are not currently working on one in West Devon, but we are working on one across the Community Safety Partnership area. On to the priority of exploitation. We do have a South Devon Exploitation Network, which draws in agencies, representatives from a wide range of agencies, to discuss the very up-to-date risks, threats and harm around exploitation, so for partners to be aware. We also are involved in several Devon-wide partnerships, including the Anti-Slavery Partnership and the Prevent Partnership, which is looking at challenging radicalisation. We have also, you will have heard, many of you have heard, and many of you have actually been on our training. We did run some training on a toolkit that was produced by Devon County in partnership with ourselves, which was around preventing exploitation. You'll see from the figures there that our reach was really, really good and positive. So we had 209 attendees from 58 organisations. One of those sessions was in your council chamber, and the feedback was incredibly positive. We also have run, again, preventing exploitation training, and we also saw approximately 2,800 young people see a theatre production which was aimed at addressing county lines, dangerous drugs networks and other forms of exploitation. In relation to drug and alcohol misuse, we're working actively on something called Operation Moorland with Devon and Cornwall Police, which is addressing blue fake Valium tablets, which have caused significant harm. We have seen hospitalisations as a result of them. As I've discussed at previous overview and scrutinies, we have had a large focus in relation to changes in youth gang and culture and youth gang activity across the CSP area. The Adolescent Safety Framework is something that Louise has already mentioned we've been working on, and we're also members of the Devon Youth Crime Prevention Partnership. There will be some other exciting initiatives to report to you next year. And the other thing I think it's really important to say, members, is that quite recently, so over the last month or so, we've been engaging with a number of people and agencies across West Devon, because we have started to see an increase in concern around that changes in youth culture, both within Oakhampton and within Tavistock. And Louisa is working very closely with the police and other partners on that. In relation to emerging issues, just a couple that I'm going to point out for you, please, members. One is we've been working very hard on trying to get partner agencies to understand the impact of trauma that has on people, and the risk that places on them to become a victim of crime, and also to be able to act effectively in different structures such as education and the criminal justice system. Another thing that we've done, and we've actually done this for several years, is actually provide some handheld alarms to domestic abuse victims to increase their feeling of security and security. So the next part of the report, like I say, Louisa has already covered. So I'm going to go through to item 4, which is options available and consideration of risk. And I think it's important to say there, as I mentioned at the start of my talk, we are very intelligence-led. So whilst we do set priorities at the beginning of the financial year, and we do set a local delivery plan, we are continually reviewing the intelligence. And obviously that's been significantly important for us under COVID this year. And both Louisa and I have been linked into a number of different networks to make sure that we were seeing that intelligence as quickly as possible and making appropriate responses to that. So again, examples of that have been around our concerns around domestic abuse, and also, for example, children being hidden missing. So where people were concerned that they were going to get into trouble if they reported their child missing because they've broken lockdown, we were sharing intelligence with schools and other partners to try and make sure that those young people weren't hidden missing and couldn't come to harm. So in relation to the proposed way forward, item 5 of the report, we will continue to engage with all statutory partners and also non-statutory partners. We'll work with whoever in our communities we can to try and improve and address community safety, and we will continue to be intelligence-led. So that is the end of my presentation on the report. So obviously, thank you very much for allowing us to speak. Apologies again for my technical issues, but obviously very happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Becca. I've got a question first of all. With you say working with the office, the Police Crime Commissioner's officer for the plan, is that plan expected to change with elections of Police Crime Commissioners, or does it tend to stay the same?
It obviously can change. However, the police and crime plan needs to be reflective of the data and the intelligence in the locality. So that's why we work so hard to make sure that we're compliant with the strategic assessment. If the Office of Police Crime Commissioner also aligns to that strategic assessment, then our two plans should be very, very closely aligned. That doesn't mean that if there was the re-election, and obviously the Office of the Police Crime Commissioner, there is an election in May for the Police Crime Commissioner, currently still planned to take place. If we were to see a different commissioner, they could, of course, come in and change the inference of that plan. But that plan, like I say, is very much intelligence-led, so we hope it would kind of dovetail with the work that we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Becca. Right, I have a question now for you from Councillor Kemp.
Hello, and first of all, can I say thank you? Your reports are always interesting, and that was very interesting this time as well. I would like to find out whether your statistics include racial implications, simply because I'm interested in the Black Lives Matter issue, and I am not quite sure how much that is of implication for our area.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kemp. We do. We look at that information all the time, and it's one of the pieces of data that we monitor to kind of test community temperature. We obviously have got concerns around how national media, national movements will impact on us in West Devon and across the whole of South Devon, and we are monitoring that effectively. We again are also working very closely with Devon and Cornwall Police, and if we were to see any spikes or changes in that, we would respond very, very quickly. The other thing I would say is that data is always interesting. Does an increase in the number of reports mean an increase in faith in that community to report, or does it actually mean an increase in incidents? So it's very important to us that we also listen to, for example, people like yourself, elected members, to let us know if there's any other tensions in the community. An example of that is where within Newton Abbot, we saw a spike of stickers going up in the public areas from an organisation called the 100 Handers, which were relating to COVID, but also relating to matters of immigration. So it's those sorts of things that we would also look at as indicators. At the moment, we haven't got any significant concerns, but it is something that we are monitoring continually.
Thank you. So what do you count as indicators?
So like I say, the indicators would be the reports, and we get those regularly. Louisa and I also attend local police meetings on a fortnightly basis. So if we had, for example, an incident that had been reported to the police that was of a hate crime nature, we would work with the police to understand that and to see if there was any other wider community tension issues that could have been linked into that. And also my other indicators are things, like I say, things that can happen within the community, such as racist graffiti, such as stickering, such as being made aware of any meetings that might be happening in the locality. Those are the other indicators we would be keeping a very close eye on.
Thank you very much. If you could pass those on to us when and if you have them, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councillor Lucy Wood, please.
Thank you, Councillor Amanda Ewings. Hello, Becca.
I'm only saying it because Becca can't see you.
Thank you. So, Becca, I've got a couple of shortish questions, I think. So, one is you mentioned the change in youth culture, and I'd really like a bit more information about that. And the other one was about infants, and I'm hearing through work pathways about risk to under ones and violence and death from alcohol and domestic issues. So I wondered if there was much of that happening in and around West Devon, and is that something you're aware of? And then also the change in youth culture and what you sort of mean by that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And it is very strange not being able to see you. But I'm doing my best. In relation to the change in youth culture, so what we've started to hear is a bit of a concern in the change of behaviour of young people in some areas. So slightly higher levels of antisocial behaviour, not always reported, but concerns from within the community, potentially low levels of criminal damage, those sorts of things. Okay. So not to the extent of youth gangs that we've had elsewhere within the Community Safety Partnership area, but enough to kind of pique our interest and to say that we need to engage a little bit more.
Okay,
if I could be so cheeky as to sneak some good news in for the wider partnership and what that means for West Devon. As you will may be aware that in Teignbridge, South Hams and Torbay did a joint application to the Home Office 2 years ago under the Turning Corners programme, and we were successful with a significant amount of money. That money helped us work on youth culture with youth outreach and other things. Unfortunately, that funding stopped in March 2020, but I'm pleased to say that the Police and Crime Commissioner has actually funded a 4-year programme for Teignbridge and South Hams to continue the Turning Corners programme. That is not an insignificant amount of money. That is £900,000 over 4 years, so £225,000 over 4 years. To get that money, we obviously had to provide an evidence base of the issues that we were having within Teignbridge and South Hams. At the time of application, that funding, the levels of issues within West Devon were not high enough to consider inclusion in the bid. However, that does mean that the fund that we have as a community safety partnership, the £25,000, which we try to always get some parity across the 3 districts, we may be able to spend more in relation to West Devon. Louisa and I are also looking into other funds because we need to now put some more focus into West Devon, because we are concerned that that change in youth culture needs to be absolutely nipped in the bud as early as possible. There are a number of different interventions that we've already supported and funded one that's in Oakhampton, working with the school, the town council and the park keepers around a specific project. And we're in conversation around trying to establish some youth outreach, which is obviously very difficult in the current COVID situation, the lockdown situation, but that's something that we will definitely be focusing on as soon as we are able to try and address this concern in both Tavistock and Oakhampton. And I'm not saying that is reaching significant levels. I'm not saying you've got really, really problematic young people. What I am saying is we hope to catch it really early, and we hope to address it before those young people become criminalised and before it has a more significant impact on your community. So hopefully some good news for you there.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah.
And in relation to your second question, and risk to under ones, I have to say it's not an area of my specialisation, but I am aware that there are concerns nationally about under ones. The first 1,000 days is very significant to babies and toddlers' development in relation to how they function in later life. So there's real importance there. We are concerned around domestic violence and domestic abuse issues, particularly in the lockdown situation, because of lack of access to other services and potentially there being increased tensions in households. Mm-hmm. So again, we are doing everything we can through campaigns. We are working regularly and keeping contact with, for example, early help services, such as Action for Children and other partners, to try and make sure that referrals go as quickly as possible if we are aware of any concerns. So that is a concern. I can't say that I've got specific evidence that is an issue for West Devon any more or less than any other area from the information that I've seen. But it is certainly something that we're concerned about, and concerned about particularly in the current situation, of still learning about the impact of COVID and the impact of lockdowns. But domestic abuse is something definitely at the forefront of our minds.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Becca. That's really reassuring. Thanks for answering my questions.
No problem.
Councillor Peter Crozier.
Thank you, Chair.
My question is it better, a better option to actually contact yourselves with the problems of youth, whether it be drug use, graffiti, or mindless damage to property? We've had all three within the Beerferens area, and probably the worst one of the lot was having glass bottles broken in a children's play park deliberately. And when you have rubber chip, it's darn nuisance to try and pick up all this glass, because I picked a lot of it up. That is my question.
Okay. So when you're saying a better option, Councillor Crozier, do you mean than contacting the police, or?
Yes, indeed, because we don't seem to get very much change out of the police.
Okay, all right. I think it's very important that you continue to report to the police, but it does absolutely no harm to contact Louisa, who is obviously your community safety specialist for West Devon. It certainly does no harm to contact Louisa or John Ward, the antisocial behaviour officer, so that we can have sight of those concerns. One of our challenges, if people don't report to the police as well, is if we then go to the police to ask for action on an issue and there's no reports, it's very difficult to ask them to direct their resources to that locality. So there is certainly no harm in notifying base, but I would certainly encourage you to continue, although you may find that frustrating. And again, you don't have to do it just on the phone on 101. You can email 101 at Devon and Cornwall Police, because I know that people are concerned about the length of time it takes to report sometimes on the telephone. But certainly if you have concerns, and not necessarily about individual stuff, but if you've got a cluster of concerns that you're aware of, then please do contact Louisa, and we will do everything we can to bring together the different partners to give you an appropriate response, and also formulate a response within the community to try and address those issues.
Thank you very much. The problems have increased this year with the lockdown and what have you, but it is more than annoying for the people who have to live in the centre of the village to have these activities going on.
Okay, thank you very much. So Louisa, is it okay for you to contact Councillor Crozier outside the meeting? We can get a bit of a summation of the issues that have been happening in Beerferris and take it from there.
Yep, of course I will do.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you both.
Councillor James Spettigue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Becca and Louisa, for your presentation. The question to you both: does West Devon Borough Council itself provide any funding specifically to tackle issues and matters arising within West Devon?
Would you like me to take that, Louisa?
Please do.
Yep, okay. So the contribution to the Community Safety Partnership in relation to West Devon is shown on your report in relation to staffing. There is no specific budget that West Devon gives in relation to any initiatives or interventions that are undertaken in West Devon.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
It does. Madam Chair, may I follow with another one, please?
You certainly may.
Thank you. To follow on from that then, Becca and Louisa, do you think that having a pot of funding available that you could potentially access quickly to tackle West Devon specific issues sort of as they emerge and before they take hold in a big way would be beneficial? Because I imagine that it would be quite a good way of increasing the safety partnership's reach in West Devon, and could, give you the ability to get on top of things you spot before they become big concerns that affect more people.
I think that would be incredibly beneficial. I think, as I mentioned earlier on, attracting additional funding is often dependent on having the evidence base and the argument that the issue is significant. We as a Community Safety Partnership obviously want to take a preventative approach to stop matters escalating before they get to that significant issue. So it's kind of a moot point that we have to wait for the problem to get so bad to be able to attract funding from certain areas. So for that reason, it would certainly be beneficial. I think with the slight change that we're seeing within West Devon, now would be a good time to be trying to put some of those measures in. As I mentioned, we will be trying to ensure to try and ensure equity with the additional funding that's come into Teambridge. We will be looking at trying to apportion some more of the CSP's £25,000 in West Devon's direction to be preventative. But any additional funding, obviously, I can assure you, we would put to good use in partnership with the council to try and make an impact in any of those areas. The key one of those at the moment for us, from what we're hearing from the West Devon community, would be around trying to address that starting that increase in concerns about youth behaviour and antisocial behaviour from the youth population specifically.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Madam Chair. I'd value your thoughts on this.
My thoughts on this subject are extremely well known to Becca and Louisa. Because I used to chair the partnership for quite a few years. It is something that we would need to take forward to the budget. So it would probably go to the Financial Strategy Review Group first to see if there is money that can be allocated, if that is what members' wishes are. And so when we have our day with Mrs. Mrs. Buckle, sorry, that we will look into there as things that we would like to allocate funding to.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think I did mention it in the budget review earlier this year, and I think it was referenced in a recent meeting by Councillor Edmondson, but
yeah, it has been referenced and the point has been taken on board. I think Councillor Hipsey's also raised it at some point as well. So we'll leave it there today without embarrassing two officers sat here.
No, apologies. That's not my intention. Thank you.
No, I know it isn't. Councillor Lynn Daniel, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And thank you for such a good presentation. I'm really pleased to see and hear about all the good work that is being done across our communities. And my question is about mental health and whether you've seen a rise in safeguarding issues due to deteriorating mental health. And I know it is a problem across the country, and I'm wondering whether it's affected us at all, and what joint agency working and resources that you can call on to assist you to deal with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. You've managed to pick one of my soapboxes, so I will try and keep the answer short, although I could go on for days. Mental health is a massive issue for us. Over the period of COVID, again, it's something that we were monitoring, and we did see an increase of concerns for welfare logs that came into Devon and Cornwall Police that had a mental health tag. So mental health has continued, is a continuing growing concern. And it is one that seems to be right at the heart of our most complex cases that we're trying to tackle through antisocial behaviour and safeguarding. So stepping out of my my community safety partnership role, I also have a corporate role for Teambridge in relation to safeguarding, and we certainly have seen an increase in safeguarding reports over this period, and I'm sure Louisa would comment that that's similar for West Devon. So the partner agency work that we're doing around mental health is linking obviously very closely with Devon Partnership Trust and also CAMS, which is the Children's Mental Health Services. We are continually trying to identify concerns, and as I mentioned earlier on, we've had a real focus on trying to raise awareness of trauma and the impact that has on mental health and people's ability to cope and function, and the risks that then places them on of coming into criminality and the criminal justice system. So that is very much a focus for us. As you've mentioned, it is a significant national problem, and it's one that sadly our response is relatively limited to, because it's a massive organisational challenge. The other thing that I think is important is we have seen partnerships with the voluntary sector stepping in and trying to support through this process, which has been really positive, and again, we'd be really keen to develop and foster any of those relationships. But there is very rarely community safety issues that mental health is not impacting on.
Yes, thank you. I had a feeling that that would be the case. And we are actually running a community voluntary group session once a month, and wondered whether you'd be able to come and talk to us about it, because it was brought up last time that they're seeing more people that they deliver food parcels to and assist in the community with these types of problems, and not quite sure what they should be doing about it. So that would be very helpful if you could just spare us 10 minutes of your time at the end of the month. Would that be possible?
Yes, of course. Either Louisa or I, whoever's most appropriate, we'll do whatever we can to support.
Oh, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions, members, please? I can't see anyone going in the box. Just on a personal update, Louisa and Becca, did you know that the Tavistock Youth Cafe has received funding for about 4 years to do one-to-one work with young people with mental health issues? One of the doctor's surgeries passed it over to the Youth Cafe to deal with for them, as they didn't feel appropriately qualified enough.
That's great news.
So really good news there. Right, as there's no more questions, the only recommendation we have that members identify any issues to be raised at the next Community Safety Partnership meeting. So I think there's a couple you may take forward there from there. And to thank you both. And Becca, it's been such a shame not to see you. And Louisa, thank you very much for everything as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, members, for your continued support. It makes a huge difference with Councillor Musgrave funding our community safety partnerships, and knowing that we always have support from West Devon is really helpful. So thank you very much, and continue to communicate with us if you've got any local concerns. We'll do what we can to help. So thank you very much.
Thank you both. Thank you, Councillor Musgrave.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we move now to item 8, which is Louisa again, which is the safeguarding annual update. Thank you, Louisa.
I think Councillor Leach was going to introduce Councillor Ewings.
Sorry, thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Leach.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm still here. Just. Yes, good afternoon. The purpose of this report is to provide members with the opportunity to annually scrutinise and review the safeguarding practices and procedures. This policy and guidance is to be reviewed annually, or when there is a change in related legislation and emerging risks are identified. This is to make sure that the policy is up to date and fit for purpose. Safeguarding is rather like the whole of health and well-being, and should be run through literally everything that West Devon does. Who is responsible for it? Literally everyone. Although within the report it does show a list of those responsible and what they are expected to do, and you will see that some have more responsibilities than others. The list actually covers elected members, the senior leadership team, the extended leadership team, our safeguarding specialist, human resources, our specialist manager and case management manager, the safeguarding champions, all staff and volunteers and contractors. Just to focus on elected members and what they have to do is, one, make sure that the council has a policy in place which adequately provides protection for children and adults with care and social needs who are in receipt of our services, and for the regular review of this policy in the light of changes in, for example, the Data Protection Act, new legislation or regulations. 2, members have to report any concerns to the safeguarding lead and any other safeguarding champion. And 3, members have to appoint a lead member for safeguarding, which sits under the theme of well-being. And that's basically just to give an outline as to what we are supposed to do. If Louisa would like to fill in any gaps now.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. Yes, good afternoon again, members. So just running through the overview and scrutiny report, obviously the attachment Councillor Leach has alluded to around safeguarding policy. As you have already heard through the community safety report, there are some crossovers with safeguarding and community safety, and it's been a busy year. Safeguarding during COVID-19 and the lockdown, as you can imagine, and I've alluded to in the report, given some context really around how it impacted. And the outcomes resulting from some of the things that we saw during that period. Also, as we've spoken about through the community safety work, we've worked in the community under the adolescent safety framework, and we've also completed an internal audit which is currently in draft form, hence not attaching it as an appendix, and I'll be working with Isabel Blake going forward around some of the findings, but rest assured the findings were that it was what were the words? Sorry, the recommendations were that it was a good audit, reasonable assurance provided. So under section 3, I've listed some of the outcomes and outputs. Please feel free at any point to ask me any questions on any of those. I talked about the lockdown period and the journey through that period. It started actually quite quiet from a safeguarding perspective. And then as community groups were rallying in the community, there were concerns particularly around older people and vulnerable people in the community. As the summer progressed and windows and doors were open, those safeguarding calls turned into calls concerned for young people living at home in the family environment and domestic abuse, because people were able to hear as the doors and windows were open or people were outside, people were able to hear some of the things going on next door, for example. Continuing on to point 3.5, I've listed there how safeguarding is part of that thread that Councillor Leach talked about, and the partnerships that both myself as safeguarding specialists but also our housing specialists are involved in, and they're so diverse, as you can see, from the community safety partnership and prevent to sexual violence, domestic violence, and then working with care leavers. The list goes on there. Would you like me to talk through the policy at this point too?
Yes, please, Louisa.
Okay, so with regards to policy, it's not a huge amount of change in there. It's been amended slightly to make it easier to see, and I think the responsibilities and suggestions around for each of the areas are clearer to see. We need to look at the policies to be reviewed every year, and this is at the point that it should be reviewed, and I've incorporated some new legislation into that policy. I'm happy to take any comments or questions on that.
Members, if you could type into the box if there are any questions for Louisa, please. Is there any activity going on, Mr. White?
Not that I can see, Chair.
No. Louisa, would you like to carry on then, please?
Yeah, so the recommendations are that the policy is recommended. I'm unclear whether that needs to go to full council or hub, or whether that's an agreement that can be reached here. And also, sorry, my screen's frozen. And also the other point was for that members to continue to review safeguarding annually through the Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you very much for that, Louisa. Mr. White, I think it has to go through to the hub, doesn't it?
It can do, Chair. Having said that, the ONS has the ability to make recommendations direct to council and or hub. So in previous years, it has gone via ONS straight to
go straight to
council.
full council, couldn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Does any member have any comments, or if they'd like to indicate any feelings of not doing these acts, please fill in your box. No, well, I'll take that as unanimously voted on. Thank you. Thank you very much, Louisa, for your contributions to this afternoon.
Thank you,
Very
Chair.
much
Thank you
appreciated. Might see you on a dog walk soon.
Probably. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, Lou. Right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. I'm going very slowly, sorry. Which is the Locality Service Annual Report. Who's introducing that? Councillor Moody.
Thank you, Chair. Just hope that my computer doesn't freeze. Chair, I'd just like to introduce the annual report for communities, for localities, and thank the officers Richard Easthope and Sarah Moody for supplying the report, and the officers will be available for questions at the end of my presentation. But the recommendations are that the Council continues to support the adoption of the locality model pending ongoing monitoring and further report in 12 months. But just to remind members that the ONS work programme has included an annual update from localities, and the last update was in November 2019. And as members will probably know, that localities team is a publicly high-profile team who are out and about in West Devon, working on a daily basis, working as council liaison with members of the public, with council members, residents, multi-agency groups, and reporting and supporting officers on a wide variety of services. It has been one of the success stories, I believe, of innovation and flexible officer working since the introduction. Currently South Hams have a member task and finish group, and they are reviewing the locality services in South Hams. And similarly, West Devon Task and Finish Group has been set up recently, and we're looking at the service working arrangements and the relationship between the wider council teams and the COVID community clusters. And on page 8, it describes the diagram. The diagram illustrates the current locality job roles, which altered in December 2019. And as I think we can see, this is under section under section 2.1, where we've got the business manager, case manager, down through to the mobile locality officers, engagement officers, and the case managers. And you also see on paragraph 2.2.1 just some of the functions of the mobile locality officers who are out and about in their vehicles and armed with their iPads. I think that we would agree that that list, from gathering information, fly tipping, dog patrols, disabled facility grants, and the housing site surveys, is not the full list. The list is a very wide and varied. It's worth noting that the MLOs are carrying out routine work, which previously was done by special officers on a higher rate of pay. Similar to, for example, the planning notices is one aspect where previously planning officers used to go out and put out planning notices. The MLO's workload currently is seen to be manageable, albeit varied, and controlled by the mobile case manager, who has been in post for 2 years. This has resulted in a greater consistency and work prioritization and work allocation. The team training continues to undertake to ensure consistent quality. We have one locality engagement officer currently covering West Devon, and their duties can be seen on paragraph 2.3.1. And the localities team since December 2019 is managed by the localities team manager, who is responsible for all the case managers. And their key role is to work with the extended leadership team to ensure business demands are met. The one important thing with localities is that the locality service is very flexible, and that has meant that the officers have also been able to help with high workload areas such as waste, case management, elections, assets, planning, and tree inspections. Our mobile localities officers are involved with the ash dieback checking of trees as well. And obviously the one big thing this year that has created an extra workload onto our officers, but they have worked admirably under the pressure, is COVID. And the teams have been heavily involved with providing food
at one of the meetings, we invited a member of the localities team to the residents meeting, and I think they really found it beneficial to find out the extent of what the localities team can help with.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Moody, did I cut you off?
No, I've cut myself off.
Oh, all right. Councillor Crozier, did you need to add anything, or are you just going to agree with Councillor Cheadle?
I was just agreeing. I thought it was a very good liaison point with parish councils.
Okay. If I can offer my thanks and everything to Sarah and your team for the excellent report and the great presentation by Councillor Moody for it. So
Thank you, Chair. And another report will be coming in 12 months' time.
Okay. And the recommendation from this is that the committee continues to support the adoption of the locality model pending ongoing monitoring and a further report in 12 months. Any dissent, please write in the box. No, nobody's writing.
There is nobody typing there, Chair.
No. Okay, we'll take that one as agreed then. Thank you. Item 10 is the verbal report from the Rural Broadband Working Group, and that will be given by Councillor Cheadle, please.
Thank you, Chair. A very quick update since the last report I made. We've eventually managed to have a pretty encouraging dialogue with Connecting Devon and Somerset. They're not always the easiest organisation to talk to, but we've had 2 or 3 meetings now with them, myself and Mr. Molyneux, and I think we've now sort of captured their attention that West Devon is an area which needs to be specifically concentrated on. We're focusing most of our effort on the relatively new community fibre partnership scheme launched by the government, which gives groups of residents grants of up to £1,500 per household to pool together to effectively buy the necessary infrastructure to deliver superfast broadband. Leader of the pack at the moment is a community fibre partnership by Sydenham Damerel, which has got to the stage where they now know how much it's going to require. They've got, I think it's something like 135 members signed up to their scheme, and they're approaching West Devon with help with the legal agreements that need to be put in place, and that works in hand. Once we've managed to sort of fight our way through that, we're hoping that that legal agreement will form a template such that when other community fibre groups come along requiring a similar sort of thing, we can almost take that one off the shelf and offer those organisations the same sort of service, effectively underwriting their contract with the broadband provider. So things are moving. These things always take a lot longer than you hope they're going to. But we're also working on a plan which hasn't yet come to fruition and may not, but we're working on it nevertheless, to get a dedicated resource inside West Devon connected to Devon and Somerset's programme, and possibly connected to the LEP, which also has money to spend on improving rural broadband. So rather than, in a sense, trying to knife and fork our way through this part-time using spare capacity here and there, we might be able to conjure up a dedicated resource to help communities get these plans off the ground and to work with Connecting Devon and Somerset to make sure they happen. So more progress than we've made to date, really, but lots more to do.
That's really interesting, Councillor Cheadle. Did you say 135 residents?
I think the Sydenham Damerel case, someone might pop in and correct me, but I think they've got a group together of around about 135 residents.
That must be nearly every resident.
Possibly.
And
each
only a
of
little
those,
place. For those of you who don't know, it's just on the Cornwall border.
each of those will effectively qualify for a voucher from the government of £1,500. And if they're a business, and there are a high number of businesses being run from homes, the businesses qualify for £3,500. So the total pot is considerable.
That is a lot of money, isn't it? That's really good. And yes, they very much need it there.
And I'm aware of two other groups. There are more than that, I know, but I'm aware of two other groups that have already started the same process.
Are you able to say where they are?
One is in Clearbrook.
Oh, yes.
And the other I'm running.
Yeah, because the areas you describe, I mean, Sydenham Damrell is very remote and the signal there is appalling.
Yeah.
So, yes, I can understand that.
So we're very much hopeful that the Sydenham Damrell one will be a beacon, if that's the right word, and illustrate to other groups that it's worth doing.
Yes, that's really good. Mr. Molyneux, you would like to comment?
Thank you, Chair. It was only to add that there is going to be a report coming forward to the Hub Committee on the 1st of December that sort of sets out sort of our approach to this and gets members' approval to sort of our approach in dealing with community broadband and the communities that are trying to get broadband. So it was just to highlight to members that there will be a report coming to Hub outlining most of what Councillor Cheadle has said.
Sounds very exciting, doesn't it? And really great for these rural communities.
Absolutely.
To be able to get some decent signal. Councillor Pearce, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify that it's not just Sydenham Damrell Village, it's the whole parish, which covers a very large geographical area, taking in Town Lake, Catsbridge, right up to Chip Shop and the wider area around there. So, this is why the number of people involved, residents and businesses, is so large.
I was going to say yes, because I was trying to envisage where 135 residents had come from in Sydenham Damrell. Because, as you know, I've got family over that way, so it was we walk a lot there, and Horsebridge Pub's the local. So that is quite a big area then. So that's
it's
really
a big area. I'm surprised actually that BT has agreed to go along with what's being put forward by Sydenham Damrell, the Sydenham Damrell team, because it is quite a very rural area and quite large distances between each properties, as you know.
Yeah. And there's quite a different distance even between somewhere like Town Lake and Sydenham.
That's right.
It's not a 5-minute walk.
No, that's right.
It's quite a distance. So that is a very big undertaking that they've given. So thank you for that, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Spettigue.
Sorry, Madam Chair, it's been a few minutes, hasn't it? Just a quick question for Rick on the basis of what you're talking about. Rick, is it your experience that when these groups come together, it's for the putting in of fibre to a box? Because if it's such a large geographical area, if that's the case, then the benefit is going to be quite diminished, I'd imagine, if you're talking about a couple of miles of copper to an individual house. So is that the case, or do you think they would be considering multiple fibre points throughout that area?
Almost certainly the latter. I'm no expert on this, but from what I've been told, if you rely on more than about 1.8 meters of copper, you don't get the benefit of superfast broadband, even if it sort of comes from a place that's got superfast broadband. By the time it's wriggled through 1.8 kilometers of copper, it dribbles out the other end.
That was my suspicion. Not
to use a politically correct or technically correct term. So it would almost certainly be a case of fibre cable being run to close to the property, if not to the property itself.
As I suspected. Thank you.
Actually, sort of saying of that, Councillor Cheadle, they've just been doing the fibre broadband around where I live, and they have got to go to like one post, and then because we're all posts up in the air, they've had to go to each individual cottage to their sort of posts, and then out the back they're trying to go up to Callington Road by using some of the posts there and stretching across. So it's quite interesting to see how they're doing it, to get the connections into place, because as you rightly say, it doesn't travel that well.
There's been a change of heart somewhere. They used to insist on laying fibre cables underground. Now they're, I think probably because of the rurality and the distances between properties, they're inclined to run the fibre cables along the overground telegraph poles, which is an awful lot easier and cheaper than digging the trenches required to put them underground. So there's a change of sort of technology involved as well.
Yes. Right. Does anyone else? Oh, Councillor Hipsey.
Thanks, Chair. No, I was just admiring Councillor Cheadle's engineering analogies. I just love the idea of electricity or signals dripping out of copper cables. But actually, slightly more serious point. It's probably worth acknowledging, I think, that by getting these groups to coalesce, that's got to be good for social cohesion in many ways around the borough. And certainly from what I've seen in the last 9 months of COVID lockdown, we can't have enough social cohesion and people getting to know their neighbours and forming groups to achieve this sort of thing. So I think that's a really good achievement, especially sort of thing that Councillor Cheadle's clearly achieved. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Mullineux. Oh no, sorry, I've promoted you.
Oh, you've promoted me, yeah.
I was going to say, whichever way you want to look at it. Sorry, Steve.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's just a point, just on the technical side of things, it's actually fibre to the premise. For the quote is from BT Openreach is to put fibre to 138 properties. And just to give members an idea of the sort of scale of that, and Councillor Cheadle is correct that a significant part of it is using fibre strung between the telegraph poles, and the cost that BT Openreach have quoted to do this is just short of £175,000. So, and it covers Sydenham, Damerel, Horsebridge, Townlake, Catsbridge, and Lane End. So
it goes right up to Lane End.
Apparently so.
Oh golly!
And the interesting thing about that is if you take that figure that Steve's just mentioned, and the number of people and the value of a voucher, it looks as though the voucher scheme will cover the cost.
So that the voucher scheme would, if everybody signs up, that the community team have got saying that want to sign up, then they would generate £219,000.
That is incredible, isn't it? And that would be a real coup to sort of be able to promote that scheme within other communities to show how it can be done.
And that's the aim. Is we want this to be the sort of the beacon that we can and create a template that we can sort of go out into other communities and say this is how you do it.
Well, Councillor Renders could be very busy out on Dartmoor, then, is all I can say. Mind you, BT might not want to go up there. Right. Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. That was really interesting, actually. And hopefully some of our more rural councillors will be able to take it into their areas and to be able to talk about it, you know, for Lidford and just, you know, places that are more remote amongst our West Devon boundaries. Right, next one is verbal updates from the chairman of the Recovery Plan Task and Finish groups. Right, who's going first?
I'm happy to go first, if you like.
Go on then. Thank you, Councillor Cheadle.
Can I just check you can hear me okay? You're quite faint at the end of this.
Am I?
Oh. You can hear me all right?
You were faint earlier, but I can hear you okay now.
Okay. I've got two brief reports to make today. One from the Consultation and Engagement Working Group and one from the Economy Working Group. If I could go for the first one, the Consultation and Engagement Working Group, and I'm going to ask Neil Hawke if he could present. He just has put it up on the screen. Hopefully in front of you, you've got a picture which has got sort of three interlocking circles in the middle of it. The Consultation and Engagement Working Group has met a couple of times. We've looked at the way other councils undertake consultation and engagement. We've looked at about 5 or 6 different schemes across the country, and from that we have sort of culled together the one that or bits of each that form how we would choose to do this. And I'm not going to go through the presentation in front of you in any detail. That will come forward once we've finished sort of knocking it completely into shape. But to give an idea of where we're going with this, if Neil, you could just turn to the matrix. Next one, it's the blue slide. No, next one. No. I can just see it appearing. Next one, that's the one. Please don't try and read this. Oh, we've gone past it. Back one, please. No. Back one. That's it. If we could stop there. What we want to end up with is a grid like this. And along the top line, it goes from informing, consulting, involving, collaborating and empowering. That's the sort of step ladder of engagement. And then down the vertical axis at the left-hand side, how we would actually deliver that. So for each thing that West Devon chooses to do, there will be a engagement policy written into the document that is brought before council, whatever the issue happens to be, detailing exactly how we will choose to engage and consult with the community. And that will be laid out by whoever writes that report at the outset and will be auditable, so that once we've done whatever it might be, we'll be able to benchmark how we have engaged and consulted against the way that we set out to do it. And by that way, we're hoping to integrate engagement and consultation into absolutely everything that we choose to do. And that might be for the statutory things where we are obliged simply to tell people what's going on, and that's at the left-hand side of this diagram, to the right-hand extreme where we would actually quite like them to do it, whatever it happens to be. And everything will find its place within this diagram. I just wanted to put that up, not to go through it in any detail today, but just to give members of ONS a glimpse of the sort of direction of travel that we're working in. There are just 2 other things I'd like to say. There are 2 ideas that have come out whilst we've been discussing this, which we need to work further on. The first is how we communicate, engage with people that are difficult to reach. That might be because they're not at all computer literate, or they might have other disabilities, or they might be of a demographic which is just traditionally difficult to communicate with. And we need to understand those groups, and we need to understand better how we communicate with them. So that's a piece of work which we have engaged, or we will engage on. And there are lots of ideas floating around of how we might do that, but I just wanted to let people know that that's one thing we're doing. And the second is to give it a shorthand, to introduce a suggestions box. Lots of issues crop up to members when they're walking around meeting members of the public, or from parish councils, or from all sorts of sources, which can get lost in the noise and shouldn't get lost in the noise. So we want to introduce a place where whoever can go through that, well, let's call it a suggestions book, and see if there are things in there which we need to address, and feed back to wherever the question happens to have come from, what we're planning to do about it. I think there could be a frustration out there that people have concerns which they just don't feel are being addressed, and that's all part of community engagement. So that's all I really wanted to say. We're working on this, and we hope to bring a document, of which this grid in front of you is at the core of it, forward before too long for formal adoption.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cheadle. Does anybody have any questions, please? No? So then may I ask, sorry, is somebody about to?
No, I was going to go on to the Economy Working Group.
Ah, right, thank you.
Right, change subject completely. The Economy Working Group has met. We looked through the recovery plan to note what activity was in there, to specifically ask whether there was any proposals in the recovery plan which we could actually start doing immediately, even though we're in the second lockdown. Before just mentioning which ones they are, I don't know if Sarah Gibson is with us today. Just waiting to see if she says yes, maybe not. Sarah has just joined West Devon and has effectively taken over from Tom Jones as placemaking, leading the placemaking activity. And Sarah is now also a member of the Economy Working Group and joined us for our first meeting. So I was just going to introduce Sarah. One of the things she has done is participated in Team Devon meetings. And Team Devon, as the name suggests, are all the authorities in Devon getting their heads around the table, working out how best to fight their way through COVID-19. And I just wanted to pick out a couple of headlines which came from yesterday's meeting. Unemployment in Devon is currently running at around about 5%, projected to reach 8% after the furlough has finished. I mean, these are guesses, of course. These are not terribly accurate, but this is the feeling amongst those that are in the Team Devon organisation. While individuals are being supported by the furlough scheme, businesses are not being well supported. Their fixed costs remain, and uptake on digital skills training has gone through the roof, perhaps unsurprising. That was just a couple of the headlines from the Team Devon meeting to do with the forecast, what the economic future for the area looks like. Turning to West Devon specifically, Chris Brook is commissioning a baseline data report to, it's an online tool which basically tells you what the state of your economic community is at any one time. It's apparently a national and very well respected scheme, which allows us, as I say, any time to press the button and get a download of just how our business community is surviving. So we're just about to join in that scheme. Closer to home, the Economy Working Group has agreed to try and get 3 groups of businesses businesses from the hospitality sector, bed and breakfast businesses, and local food producers round 3 separate tables to find out how they're coping and to find out whether there is anything West Devon specifically can do to make their life easier. And we're right at this moment contacting 5 or 6 from each of those groups so that we can start those conversations going. We thought we would do it during lockdown when we're perhaps more likely to be able to grab their attention. And we'll be working up a sort of template of questions to hold those question sessions with those groups of businesses in our area. Chris Brook again is going to initiate a pop-up working online tutorial for businesses. One of the themes that is coming back at the moment is that a lot of businesses obviously aren't trading the way that they would normally wish to trade. And some are struggling to get their heads around exactly how to set up and manage online trading. So we thought by offering a course to those businesses that wish to do that, we would be doing something to help. We can buy into a series of courses. The last time we did this was a course on starting your own business, and it proved extremely popular. So we thought we'd go to the same provider and make available a working online tutorial for those businesses that would find that useful. Some may have heard that there is an initiative running in Tavistock to set up some form of click and collect system for local businesses. So that's being looked into. No decision's been made yet on whether or not we can do that, but it's just a piece of work that's ongoing at the moment. And finally, the parking arrangements in Oakhampton and Tavistock are being adjusted from the end of the furlough, the lockdown period, that's either 2nd or 3rd of December. Throughout December, I'm not 100% sure I've got the details exactly right, but I think in Oakhampton from 3 o'clock onwards, there'll be no parking charges. And in Tavistock for 3 days a week from 3 o'clock onwards, there'll be no parking charges. And that's to try and stimulate people coming in and using the shops and services in Tavistock without having to pay for parking. So there's stuff going on. The latest tranche of business grants is being rolled out as we speak. So the team is very busy, and the economic working group is meeting to see what we can do as West Devon and West Devon councillors to try and make the life of those trying to run businesses easier. And that's just our update as of yesterday, Madam Chairman.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Cheadle. Really informative and up to the mark, because things are becoming harder and harder for our local businesses. Where am I? Item 11. Councillor Yelland, is this a question on Councillor Cheadle's?
It is indeed.
That's all right. I'm just making sure I've not gone up and down my list. Thank you, Councillor Yelland.
Thank you. It's just a question for clarification, because I've also had conversations with Councillor Pearce about this, so it's just getting it right. Councillor Cheadle was just saying that about free after 3 parking in Oakhampton. Is he able to clarify if this is just the Mill Road car park, or will it also incorporate the Waitrose car park, which is owned by West Devon? Thank you.
I can't clarify that, I'm afraid, Julie, but maybe Terry Pearce, if he's on the call, might be able to.
Terry would like to make the next comment.
Thanks, Chairman. Yes, it's the Mill Road car park only. It's not the Waitrose one. And it's for every day through December after 3 o'clock is free parking. In Tavistock, it's for from 3 o'clock for 3 days at the weekend. and I understand that's for the Brook Street and the Abbey car park, and it might take in the Bedford car park as well, but I need to clarify that actually. Sorry, Chairman.
That's okay. That's okay.
We
Does
are
anyone else on the call know the answer to that one, please? Any of the officers?
We are on trying to support the towns during their important trading period.
Yes, because it's going to be very, very difficult this year.
Yeah.
So I really hope this click and collect that they're looking to do into Tavistock does work. I've read something from the bid today that's saying they're still hoping for the end of the month, beginning start of December. So it would be great if they can find, a place for it.
That's
so
right.
that would be really good.
Yeah.
Right. Does Councillor Ratcliffe still have to give a presentation?
I am indeed,
There
Chairman.
you go. Thank you.
And firstly, the purpose of the Task and Finish group is described in the executive summary to this meeting, which can be found in the agenda. At our last meeting, the officers reported on the current functions of the mobility and locality officers and the functions of the local engagement officer and the relationship with the civil enforcement officers. This was most interesting. He gave a good insight and will be looked into a lot later on. Looking ahead to future meetings, the agenda there will include how locality best fits within the community, cross-working between teams, and that is the locality teams, and how we can best assist the COVID-19 community response, which is a major item, and finally fitting it effectively into the recovery plan. The group always welcomes any member suggestions for agenda or items in the development of this group over the next few months. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sounds like you've got a very interesting group there.
I think we have, yes.
Yes, interesting topics. Is there anyone else, please? No, is that all the groups covered, Mr. White?
It is indeed, Chair. It is.
That's what I thought. Right. So if we move on to the draft annual work programme, we will see that we have busy meetings again. And I think the next one's mainly taken up with the budget, isn't it?
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah. So it might look like a small agenda, folks, but I don't think it is really. Because we've got the committee's forward plan, which that's not so bad. I know it just looks like it's draft budget proposals, but I think that is going to take up the majority of the meeting. There isn't anything else to come forward, is there?
Not to that meeting, Chair. I mean, the only other item to flag, which came on the back of the last Development Management Licensing Committee, Chair, is the recommendation whereby the ONS Committee receive a progress report on the Planning Improvement Action Plan.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that will be either March or April, I'd suggest, Chair, but that isn't actually currently showing on the published plan, but that will need to be added.
Okay. And no, why did I think? The groups that have just been talked about, the Task and Finish groups, was that their only one to come to a meeting, or does that come on to January's as well?
The Task and Finish group updates the standing agenda item, Chair, so I think we'll see how that dovetails in, because of course the recovery plan is next due to go to Hub on the 1st December as well, so there's a dovetailing in there, but that's just to reflect the fact that as a standing agenda item we do have Task and Finish group updates on there, no matter which live ones are or not at that instant each meeting.
I know that Mr. Powell was saying that some of the new plan, the going forward plan may be a bit more difficult, the recovery plan, because we're back immersed in it as officers. So we will just keep an eye on that one as to how it goes and as to whether we're released on the 2nd of December or not. Is that the best way to go forward? And is Mr. Powell on the line to confirm that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I am. Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with us a lot of resources going back into response. Some of the timeline on the recovery plan has been affected. We're waiting the output of the task and finish groups, but we're still continuing on key areas of work under the recovery plan. And at this stage, we'll be taking a sort of refined version of the plan to Hub and then hopefully onto Council for adoption. And how the task and finish groups feed into that will depend on the speed that they progress. But the key at this stage is to make sure that we're putting the right resources into response and refining the recovery plan to make sure it covers the position we're going to be in when we come out of the next response phase. So it is it's an ever-changing situation, to be honest, at this stage, Chair.
And you're also writing the planning review, is that correct?
I'm working with colleagues on that one, Chair.
So are we going to be okay on the dates for that? I'm just aware of the pressures that are being placed on you in particular at this moment.
I think the intention is that comes forward as agreed, Chair.
Right, that's good. I take it you'll let me know, Drew, if things go a bit askew.
Certainly will.
Okay, thank you. So with that, everyone, that is the end
Sorry,
of the
Chair,
meeting.
before we move on, Mr. Molyneux's also asked to make a comment.
Oh, look, there he is. He's popped up. Sorry, I didn't see that bit. Mr. Molyneux.
Chair, I just wondered, we've got on the 2nd of March a update from Fusion where Fusion present their annual report.
I think I'd like one before then.
And what I'm wondering is on the 19th of January agenda, whether we put an item on there so that what I'd like to get to is we've seen Fusion come and talk about all the things they want to talk about in their annual report. And I think it might be worthwhile having a short discussion where members indicate what sort of things they would like Fusion to present about. And
yes, which worked really well last year from our task and finish group, didn't it?
Yeah,
and I know, particularly Councillor Daniel was a bit concerned that all that work we'd done would just disappear for 4 years. So your suggestion sounds really good, that actually we can, look back to that and maybe see what's going forward and how they're reacting, and the state of their finances, I think, would be a good comment.
So I'm just proposing that we add an additional item to that 19th of January, which is, members will think of something in terms of the title of it, but it will be, I guess, to give Fusion an idea of things that we would like them to cover as members.
Yeah, yes.
We'll come up with some words, better words than those.
Yes, because it could work out well actually if we have the task and finish group just maybe have one session and then put forward some bits for that meeting, but we can discuss that outside this meeting.
Okay.
Councillor Jury, can we bag 10 minutes, please?
Sure, you can bag 10 minutes. Let's reconvene then.
5 isn't time for a kettle.
15:55, please, if that's okay.
Okay. And I'd like to close this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Oh, hang on. Member development, Mr. White. I nearly forgot. And
You preempted my comments, Chair. It's not directly related to this meeting, but the fact that the COVID member briefing on the rising of this session, we've set up a separate meeting, so if members could leave this call and join the separate meeting, that would be much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you to everybody. It's been a really interesting meeting, and it always just feels so odd not seeing people. But thank you all, and see you on the other side of COVID.
Thanks for the time, Andy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy. Bye.
That's okay. Bye.